we'll discuss carpal tunnel syndrome. Coming to the symptoms, patients will usually present with the pain in hands, numbness, burning sensation, and weakness of the hand muscles, wasting of the hand muscles. And these symptoms, especially pain and numbness, burning sensation, will be more in the night time. Some patients will present with the same symptoms in both the hands, and it is associated with the hypothyroidism. And sometimes patients will have a history of a wood fracture or a diabetes or some other hormonal problems. Coming to the diagnosis is mainly clinical diagnosis. The recent literature reflects a growing interest in confirming the clinical diagnosis of carpal tunnel syndrome with either a disease specific score or ultrasound as opposed to the electrodiagnostic evaluations. Now, people are not favoring the nerve conduction studies. There is a scientific reason for that also. Ultrasound, nerve conduction studies, and CTS6 have a similar sensitivity, specificity for the diagnosis of a carpal tunnel syndrome. This study was published in JBS 2015. These findings support the previous studies that have suggested CT6 and ultrasound are highly accurate in the diagnosis of a carpal tunnel syndrome, and that nerve conduction studies are not necessary in most cases. These studies favor the as an ultrasound as a first line test in the diagnosis of a carpal tunnel syndrome. The study was published in clinical CORR 2013. Nerve conduction studies are uncomfortable for most patients, inefficient, and less cost effective than ultrasound. They recommend the routine use of ultrasound as a first line confirmatory test for carpal tunnel syndrome. Ultrasound has a higher specificity than the nerve conduction studies, making it the better confirmatory test. Nerve conduction studies cannot be considered the reference standard as 16 to 34% of patients have a false negative tests. This was published in Neurology 2002. The true diagnostic accuracy of nerve conduction studies has been difficult to ascertain given the lack of reference standard. Coming to the treatment, we can try some painkiller tablets, night sprints, and next option is the steroid injection. Steroid injection gives a relief in some patients. There is a study published in JBS 2015. According to this study, corticosteroid injection can be used as a therapeutic modality, although sustained relief is possible. Only 31% of patients maintained a symptom relief at 12 months, and diabetes were more likely than others to fail injections. Don't give or avoid steroids if possible in diabetic patients. There is a consensus that if symptoms persist after non-operative treatment, most commonly consisting of a bracing and or a corticosteroid injection, surgical release of the carpal tunnel is indicated. The carpal tunnel may be released with either an open or an endoscopic approach. There is a study in JBS 2016 on endoscopic approach for the carpal tunnel. According to them, it did not improve other outcomes or hasten return to work, a higher cost that may not be justified without more demonstrable clinical benefit. In our opinion, better to do an open carpal tunnel release. Nowadays, with experience, we are making a very small incision of almost 2 cm and releasing. I think that is more effective and cost effective also. When surgical release is performed, most patients do well and have long-term symptom relief at mean of 13 years after surgery. After mean follow-up of 13 years, 88% of patients were either completely satisfied or very satisfied with the surgery. 74% patients reported their symptoms to be completely resolved. In long-term follow-up, the most common persistent symptoms included weakness and numbness, while a nocturnal pain was one of the least common symptoms. Surgical treatment of a carpal tunnel syndrome relieves symptoms significantly better than splinting. Coming to the bilateral disease, sometimes patients will have bilateral carpal tunnel syndrome symptoms and will be in a dilemma whether to release it in a single stage or in 2 stage. There is a study published in JBS 2014, a prospective cohort study of early outcomes and limitations. According to this study, the bilateral carpal release increased impairment from bilateral surgery is only evident in the first two post-operative days when doing high demand tasks. That means they can do small work but they can't do high demand activities. This data indicated that bilateral surgery was safe and offered the advantage of minimizing overall recovery time, especially in patients who had some help at home.